Blucher is on the table. This game is not scaled for the combat we need to fight today. We used Skarnhorst, the campaign system included in this rule set, to generate what turned out to be two battles that may actually be one. They're pretty close to each other. Let's zoom in and take a look at the action for today. Over here on the south flank, on the extreme left wing of the Russians are the red counters, the Prussians are the blue. The main column of the Prussians is trying to punch through to get into the backfield of this is like an artillery unit. Well, we'll take a look in just a second. The leader of the Prussians, what's his name? York von Wartenberg, is trying to get back here, and he thinks he can destroy these guys. Now, the only thing standing between him, let's take a look at column A there, okay? One from column A. We got a couple of reserve regiments, a couple of landwehr, and two guard cavalry cuirassiers. They are going up against a whole lot of infantry, and a couple of them are militia. We've got 3 infantry units, 2 militia, and 1 unit of Cossacks, with maybe another unit of Cossacks showing up on the Russian side, and maybe a couple of units of light cavalry showing up on the Prussian side. We're not sure yet. We're going to be dicing for those. Up over here, column C and column 3, those are the big guns with a little bit of support infantry. For the record, there is 1 unit of Guards elite infantry on the side of the Prussians. And then column 1, of course, is Kutuzov with a couple of grenadiers. He's the big guy. So Kutuzov is trying to take these guns out and then sweep around and take this column B, which is just 3 units of line infantry. So kind of an interesting battle up there, but we'll look more at that next week. For this week, we just need to know how many of Württemberg's fellas are going to get through to support that attack in the rear. And we need to know how fast they go. From this, we get this. There's Arcura right there. The Prussians are down here at the bottom of the table. Their heavy cavalry are over here on the extreme left wing. They have 1 unit of Cossacks facing them. They may race over and try to cross that bridge. Remember that the area map, these 2 crossings are the only way to get to that battlefield. So they are going to kind of throw that left hook. Down here, we've got our landwehr and our conscripts, whatever you call those guys. The landwehr are bunched up a little bit heavier. This is a unit of light cavalry that shows up a little late. They were part of the recon. They're scouting. To start the battle, we find out how many fatigue it has. On a 1, it doesn't have any. On a 6, it starts with 2. Anything else, so they start with 2 fatigue. They're not going to have a whole lot to do with this battle, but they are there. They are a threat. They may be able to recover. In fact, this guy might help them do that if he's got enough command points. So the better infantry are up front. They're going to try to force the bridge crossing. The conscripts are over here to their... Oh, they're turned around. We'll turn them around like that. There we go. And you can tell the difference on my 2mm figures because these guys are bunched up neck and neck. And then these guys, kind of face to butt. These guys, there's a little bit of space between them. Now, over here on the Russian side, the Russians do have a garrison in Arcura. As we said, they have the Cossacks over here. They have their better troops in front in prepared positions defending the bridges. The 2 units of militia are back here. I think that's all we need to do. If you know Blucher, then you already know what the difference is between the landwehr and the conscripts. And if you don't, you're going to find out because we'll go over those rules as they crop up. Basically, the plan for the Prussians is going to be get up here, shoot these guys off the table. Now, the way Blucher works, you divide the number of units you've got by 3. Okay? And then you disregard any fractions. That means that both sides have a morale clock of 2. If the Prussians can do 2 damage can eliminate 2 units, then they win the fight. And that's part of why we have these guys spread out like that, because the Russians are just buying for time. For every turn that this game takes, it's going to take the Prussians that much longer to get up. And if we want to retire some guys, maybe we retire them up. And if we want to retire some of these Russians, which we may want to do, then they'll participate in the battle too. We'll have to figure out how that works in the next episode. So for now, this should be pretty easy. But there are other considerations, aren't there? In a pickup game, your attacker sets up first within 4 base widths of his table edge. Defender sets up second within 6 base widths. Oh, shoot, take a look. Our river crossing is 12 inches onto the table. I'll even zoom out so you can see it a little better. Now that means that our Prussians only get 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait a second. Why is he up close to the bridge? Because in point of fact, now remember, our table depths are 16 inches. Well, it's actually, your table depth is 16 base widths. Since I'm using 1-inch bases, that's only 16 inches. I've extended mine. It's a little bit deeper. It's fine. Ultimately, where I'm going with this is that in the Scharnhorst game, because this isn't a pickup game, it's a Scharnhorst battle, you have to set up within your half of the table, and you can't deploy within 2 base widths of an opponent. What that means is the attacker can set up within 8 base widths of his table edge, and the defender can only set up within 6 because of that extra 2-inch buffer that has to be laid out. The Prussian light horse still comes in on this roadway area, so that doesn't change. But ultimately it means that, and again, my table edge, because my table is 24 inches deep and the battlefield is only 16 inches deep, I just measure 8 inches from the opposite table edge, and that's as far up as the Prussians can deploy. That means the Prussians have already seized this bridge. Hold on a second. Weren't the Russians here yesterday and the Prussians moved up to attack? That means that the standard Scharnhorst battle doesn't really apply. We're going to do the take the bridge scenario, not take the town scenario. This is not a meeting engagement where both columns were coming at each other. This is a campaign game where there are other considerations other than the specific rules that are printed in the Scharnhorst campaign. Which is my way of explaining why we're starting our deployments like this. All of the Russian forces north of the river, all of the Prussian forces south of the river. Remember, these guys do have the option of making a flank movement on the first turn. This stream will slow them down a little bit. We're not using the hidden movement or hidden deployment. But really, I think the lesson to take away from this is that even if you have 6 or 8 units on the table, if you sit down and start thinking about how those units got there and what the ultimate goal of the two sides are, whether it's punching through or delaying, there is a lot of interesting intellectual weight to lift here. There's a lot of things to consider from a commander's perspective, and I guess this is my way of saying that Blucher is a great exercise to work through, even if you just want to play a little bite size, kind of, this a third of a core versus a third of a core. Maybe you don't have a full 4 hours for a convention scale game, but you can run through this in about an hour and have a great time. Don't be afraid to do that. The Prussians, as the attackers, get to take the first turn. And I'm going to do something a little different on these early turns. Because I only have a few groups of soldiers to move, I'm going to declare these 2 guys are going to move up first. And then if I have enough movement left over, I'm going to do the flank march over here. So on a 3 or a 4, these guys can move up to the river. And on a 5 or a 6, that means I can bring these guys up, or I can use my special ability from the commander to remove 1 fatigue from these light cavalry for the Prussians. And that's what I'm going to do. So on a 5 or a 6, so I only get a 4, which means these 2 and these 2 are going to be able to march forward. Heavy cavalry are trying to pin this unit down. Just force him to stay. The heavy cavalry move up to the river. They are just threatening this flank. That's pinning this regular unit. The 3 guys with the chips, by the way, those are conscripts. They only have an elan of 5 to start the game. I put the 2 stronger units here and here, holding the bridges, and then these conscripts, of course, will try to delay things a little bit further. And if this town holds, remember, as long as the horses are close, well, we'll have to figure out what that means in a little bit. Let's deal with the bridge first. Of course, with the moving up, the lead Prussian unit has charged. And this is going to lead to a melee. There's no shooting. Shooting comes first, but everybody is at least 2 inches away. There's no artillery. Don't have to worry about that. So the way this works, both of the units involved in this melee are elan 6. They both have 6 dice. But because the Russians had a day to get entrenched, they get an extra die. So I've got 7 red dice. Because they are constrained, they're in what the game rules call difficult ground. They're constrained by the bridge. They are at -1 die. So I am going to be rolling 5v7. Everybody hits on 4s. So we just count the successes. The blue dice get 1, 2, 3 successes, and the red dice get 1, 2, 3, 4 successes. The defender, having won the battle, takes 1 fatigue. The defender takes 2 and retreats. And oh, there's somebody behind him. That might have been a mistake on the Prussian commander's part. Because of interpenetration considerations, that is not the case here. They will fall back 2 inches behind the reserve attack. That second division will be able to follow up next turn. Turn 2 belongs to the Russians, and the Russians are just going to open fire over here. They have 5 dice, but because that unit is just a regular line unit, do the Russians have skirmish as one of their abilities? No. The infantry that you see there are steady, which means they get to roll an extra die. They should have had 8 dice total. Oh, these guys are going to be pretty tough to dislodge. I think the Prussians are in trouble here because, having not moved, nobody on the Russian side wants to move. They're right where they want to be. However, they do not have skirmish as an ability, which means when you're firing at this 1.5 to 2 inches, they're only rolling 2 dice, hitting on 4s, and with a 3 and a 2, they do no damage, which will end the turn. We move on to turn number 3, and once again, we roll for our activation dice. All the normal rules apply. We get a 4, which means the heavy cavalry will be able to cross to here, and that's going to end their turn. Well, no, they can move a half. They get half a move, right? So 2 inches, they'll be able to kind of pivot and do something like that. It's going to take them a while to get there. So on turn number 3, the only other piece of movement that we have is bringing these guys up, and we'll bring, their game. They just need to take a little time out, get a little hydration. They'll be fine. So we have the exact same fight that we had last time, except we're going to use the right number of dice. We will go ahead and roll a total of 8 dice for the Russians. That's not the die roll. And once again, because we are in cover and we don't have any special... What do the Prussians have there? The Prussians do have skirmish. They may be... Man, I wonder if they wouldn't be better off just standing back and opening fire. Because the unit they're firing at is prepared, they're only going to get to roll 3 dice hitting on 6s, meaning they're going to do, what's the video game term for that? DPS, right? Our DPT is a half an elan point per turn. It's going to take 12 turns to 6 firing, 12 firing. The game is only 15 turns long. We just got our go for broke. We're going to try to hammer those guys. The other thing, maybe the smart play would have been to bring both of these units up to the bridge and have them both fire, because then it would have been 6 turns to destroy him. But, then we still have those conscripts. Let's just roll. Let's just see what we can do. Everybody's hitting on 4s. And with the Russians rolling that many 6s, it's just not going to happen. So again, the Russians will fling the Prussians back. The Russians take 2 points of damage, 2 fatigue. The Prussians take 1. Did I say that backwards? I did. Prussians take 2. Russians take 1. And now everybody's got 2 fatigue. On turn number 4, the Russians are going to do what they do. They're going to fire their little volley. Well, wait a minute. They've got 4 elan. Cut that in half because they don't have skirmish. They're going to roll a 1 and a 3 with no 6s. That means it's the Russian turn. We roll. They get another 4 for their activation. Just take my word for it. That was a 4. It was a little half-cocked. Which means the cavalry can move up to the road. And we'll see if the cavalry have more luck on that northern flank. Next turn, they are about 3 inches away, so they're going to be outside of firing distance. But we have we have a worse situation for the Prussians. So they bring they're just playing a little hopscotch here. Both guys have 2. Both of these divisions have 2 fatigue, which means the Prussians now are only going to be rolling 3 dice on the attack. Oh, I rolled 1 too many dice for the Russians last turn, didn't I? They're going to be rolling 4, but they're in a prepared marker, so it's going to be 5v3. Everybody's hitting on a 4-up, and this time, would you look at that? The Prussians have won with 3 successes to just 2 for the Russians. Turn number 4, the Prussians have taken the far shore, but they are in trouble because they are going to be exposed to 2 volleys of fire by the conscripts, who are both going to be firing
5 dice. So I'm just going to roll all 10 of these. I know the colors are different. This unit will turn back around and prepare to receive another charge. Now, they're not prepared, so they're in a little bit of trouble. But that's really all, and that's the only movement that's being made by the Russians. So we know they're going to roll at least a 1. All right, so now we have to deal with the shooting here. Remember, we're only hitting on 6s. They're going to get 1 success, and that's going to add an additional point of fatigue to these heroic fellas. And that's going to end the turn. We move on to turn number 5. Boy, we are really... I didn't think I was going to show every jot and tittle of this game, but it's going so quick. Now, we have to decide what we're going to do, and we're going to go ahead and... We've only got 2 Elan here. But we have skirmish. Do we want to try to wound this guy, or do we want to finish this guy off? We are going to be at 2 to 4 in either case. And I think the thing to do is to just... see, the problem is... First of all, let's roll our dice to see what we get here. We're only going to be able to activate 2 units. Which means all we're going to be able to do is move this guy up over the bridge once we figure out where he's going. And I think you have to drive off one of these militia to give him room, 1-2, to get onto the far shore. Boy, it really would have been nice to bring some of these guys up, so we could get them out of the rough ground. All right, be that as it may. So we had 1 movement, we have 1 combat over here, and that's going to be 4 dice to the Russians to just 2 for the Prussians. The Prussians are steady, and it looks like we're going to be tied 1-1, which means the Prussian unit is removed as a fighting force. They take their 6th Elan, and all they manage to do is deliver 1 to the conscripts. They have held their ground. More power to them. That means on the next turn, this unit is going to be suffering a total of, let's see, there's 3, 7, 11 dice worth of damage. How many dice do we have here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, we got to take 2 of these out. So 11 firing dice altogether on turn number 6. And I think, and with no hits, the Prussians got really lucky. Declaring our movement. Our first movement is going to be this. Maybe we should just open fire. We don't have skirmish, but we could pivot and we could open fire here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to fire 4 dice, but I need to do some other movement first. So let me just declare. That's for sure. Then if I roll a 2 hill move, on a 3 hill move, and on a 4, we'll bring that guy up. So on a 2, we'll bring these guys up to here, and that's all that's going to happen. Now we get to do a set of firing. We're going to roll 4 dice at that militia. Because they're within 1 inch, so we get the full 4 Elan. And we're going to do another point of fatigue to this militia. And at a minimum, I think we're looking at a draw here that's not going to have any impact on the overall battle. Neither of these guys are going to be in any shape to participate this afternoon from the looks of things. That was turn number 6. On turn number 7, the Russians get to go, and they're going to do the same thing. We'll fire 5 shots here. We'll do 1 fatigue, knocking him down to just 3. And then we'll have, 3 there and 3 there. So 6 more shots. Looking for 6s. If we can roll triple 6s, we get none. Russian marksmanship, just not getting the job done today. So this time, we're going to go ahead and charge here. And then we'll move him and him. With a 6, we can move everybody. So we're going to get stuck in. These guys have a bonus when they're on the defensive. So 1, 2, and then we're going to pivot and go 1, 2. And I guess we bring these guys up. And we have, he's going to give the order. We're going to remove 1 fatigue. Now, these guys, you can never rally a troop to full strength. So that's as good as it's going to get for our light cavalry. We have 1 combat over here, which is going to be a 3v3. Looking for 4s, 5s, and 6s. And the Russians score 1. Is it 3v3? Yeah. And that means that the Russian conscripts go to 4. And the Prussian regulars go to 5. It's getting bloody over there, ain't it? And the Russian conscripts actually have to retreat. Now, because they charged, they retreat over to here, and they're going to get all shot up on the Russian turn, aren't they? Those conscripts are relatively fresh. They're rolling 4 6s. If they 4 dice, if they get a single 6, they're just going to take this one out. But it did at least pin them down. Now, we do have, these guys are both firing at half strength. So that's going to be 1 die here and 1 die there. So 2 more shots to try to do some damage to this conscript here. And wait, are those guys really? Yeah, those guys are conscripts. I forgot. Forgive me. These 2 units start off effectively with 1 fatigue. As conscripts, they're just not as strong. So we have the same issue going here. And again, they can't be revived up higher than that. So our fresh conscript is going to pivot and charge to here. These guys are going to move 1, 2, just get over the river, and then we have a combat, which is going to be the Russians have just 2 dice to 5 dice for the Prussians. So finally, the Prussians have the advantage here. And in this case, with 1, 2, 3 successes, that will do 2 fatigue, and it will drive these guys from the battle. We can follow up 1 inch. And that will end turn number 9. On the Russian turn number 10, the Russians can, what are we going to be left with here? The Russians will, let's see how many pips they get. With a 6, they've got a lot. So we're going to charge in with these guys and these guys. And then this guy will simply recover. He's going to pivot around. He is somewhat rallied. And maybe we bring these guys up to there just for giggles. Where's my dead pile? Let me move these out of the way so I don't get confused. When you face a 2-on-1 like this, the landwehr only have 5 dice to allocate to the battle. And they're not steady. They don't have any special rules. They're effectively conscripts. They have to choose which of the combatants they're allocating their dice to, and they have to be as evenly matched as possible. So we could put 3v5 or 3v3. We're going to take the 3v3. We're going to treat this as basically as 2 separate battles. So our 3v3 is going to be 2 successes to the Russians, and our 2v5 is going to be 2 successes to 1 success for the Russians, and that's just going to spell doom for the Prussians. This means all of the attackers take 1 fatigue. So 2 and 5, this line regiment is holding strong. He's got, I think I rolled 1 too few die. Yeah, no, he only had 2 dice over here. I rolled 1. No, I rolled it right. He was at 3 alon. Now he's at 4. He will live to fight another day, and because the attacker was outscored, you take 2 fatigue. I'm not sure whether I take a total of 4 fatigue, 2 for each of the leaders, or just 2 total. But either way, because he was the defender, he's going to race back here, and he takes at least 2 fatigue. And that's pretty much it for the Prussians. They really don't... Why do I have a Prussian unit over here? I think I've got something backwards here. I think this is supposed to be a Russian unit. I think the Prussians are going to fail to crack this defensive line. The Russians are going to be really battered, but because they still maintain control of the town, I think what we'll do is we'll say, you know what, they can bring back, so the attack is called off. And that's the other thing, because the Prussians have lost 2 units, their morale is broken and the game is over for that reason. But I think what we'll do is we'll bring both of these units here. Oh, you can't see them. So these 2 units were untouched, and they're going to be able to come on as reinforcements in that main fight up here in the north. So this was the Battle of
Arcura, which will stay in Russian hands. And now, because of the successful defense, by the way, see this big heavy river here? That's why these heavy cavalry couldn't just race off to the north. If this river was a small river like this, maybe we would have allowed them to get to the battle late in the day, but they have to cross at this bridge. There's no time for them to ride all the way back here. Their only hope of making it to the battle in time was to get across the bridge here and come up in that direction. So remember, our main battle is taking place here. But if they can scoot just a little bit over here by this hill, maybe we allow these two Russian units to come on as reinforcements. And so even though the two columns won't have that impact, you never know. A light cavalry, one fresh unit of line infantry, even as ineffective as the Russians are, let's take a look at the character sheet, right? That's good. They're going to be steady at least. That could be just enough to tip the battle. And of course, the big thing is the Prussians are not going to have the services of old York von Wartenberg. He is stuck on the south side of the river. He just could not get over the bridge. And he's going to pull all of his survivors back and say, hey, we'll just kind of pin down as many forces here as we can. But again, with these guys are pretty well spent, but maybe this guy, he's pretty fresh, right? Maybe we trade him out, and maybe we have one more unit of conscripts that can make it. Maybe these guys go into garrison and these guys make it up. I kind of like that idea, man. That's a little bit more of a punching force. So all in all, largely a draw, but a successful battle from a campaign perspective for the Russians. And, again, kind of a nice little bite-sized war game with greater ramifications. You got to think about just not throwing everybody away the whole time. I mean, the Prussians didn't have much choice this time. They kind of had to just throw everything at this southern bridge. But, this is why we play the games. And it really does change the way that you think about running a battle when it is part of a larger whole. So I guess the moral of the story is I can't recommend Scharnhorst highly enough for Napoleonic wargamers. Even if you're not using Blucher itself, it does give you some interesting scenarios, and maybe you even wind up with a little mini campaign with a bite-sized battle followed by a main course. That's your aperitif for today. Join me in a week for the main course. Until then, I'm praying for you.